What if the history we've all been taught is missing a chapter? You know the story, a neat and tidy timeline of human evolution. But what if it's not the whole story? Scattered across the globe, in ancient texts, folklore, and forgotten newspaper clippings, a very different story emerges. A story that hints at a chapter of our history that has been conveniently torn from the books. What if, long before us, the Earth was inhabited by a race of giants? And what if the proof has been systematically erased, hidden from view to protect a narrative that's simpler, but maybe false? It sounds like fiction, but the stories are startlingly consistent, spanning continents and millennia. From ancient scriptures to the traditions of Native American tribes, the belief in a race of giants is a universal thread woven into our collective memory. Today we pull on that thread and ask, why have these stories been so thoroughly dismissed? The biblical giants, the Nephilim. Our investigation starts in the pages of one of the world's most influential books, the Bible. Genesis chapter 6 speaks of a mysterious and powerful group known as the Nephilim. The text describes them as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. The word Nephilim itself is a mystery. Some scholars say it means the fallen ones, but their reputation was all about incredible size and power. These weren't just a few isolated figures. The Bible mentions entire lineages of giants, like the Rephaim and the Anakim. When the Israelites sent spies into the land of Canaan, they came back terrified, claiming the inhabitants were so large that the Israelites felt like grasshoppers. Of course, the most famous of these biblical giants is Goliath. Depending on which ancient text you read, his height is described as anywhere from 6 feet 9 inches to a staggering 9 feet 9 inches. But he wasn't alone. Consider Og, the king of Bashan. The scriptures note that his iron bed was about 14 feet long and 6 feet wide. While this isn't a direct measurement of his height, some have speculated it suggests a being of colossal proportions, maybe even 10 to 12 feet tall. Apocryphal texts, like the Book of Enoch, expand on these accounts, describing celestial beings who descended and created this giant progeny. While modern theology often treats these stories as allegory, some researchers ask a provocative question. What if these ancient writers weren't just creating myths, but were recording their history as they experienced it? The giants of the New World. The Site-Ka, half a world away, a nearly identical story was passed down for generations by the Paiute people of North America. Their oral history tells of a war against a fierce, red-haired tribe of giants known as the Site-Ka, which means tool eaters. According to Paiute tradition, these giants were cruel, warlike, and practiced cannibalism. For years, the Paiute and other tribes fought a desperate war against these towering adversaries. The legend ends with a final dramatic battle. The tribes united and chased the last of the Site-Ka into a large cavern, now known as Lovelock Cave in Nevada. When the giants refused to surrender, the tribal warriors piled brush at the cave's entrance and set it ablaze, suffocating those inside and ending their reign of terror. For years, this was just considered folklore, but findings in the 20th century make you wonder. The oral tradition speaks of red hair, and mummified remains found in the region do, in fact, have reddish hair. Mainstream science offers a simple explanation. The pigments in dark hair break down over centuries, causing it to turn a rusty red color. But is it just a coincidence that this chemical process perfectly matches a key detail in the Paiute legends? The Trail of Bones. Controversial discoveries. The story of Lovelock Cave doesn't end with legends. In 1911, miners digging for bat guano began unearthing thousands of artifacts, but it was the reports of human remains that ignited a firestorm of controversy. Miners claim to have found skeletons that were abnormally tall, with some reports alleging they measured an incredible 7 to 8 feet. Later newspaper articles from 1931 described 2 enormous skeletons found nearby, one supposedly 8.5 feet tall, and the other nearly 10 feet. Of course, there is no scientific consensus on these claims, and many have been linked to repeatedly debunked hoaxes. Adrian Mayer, a historian, suggests the giant interpretation was started by entrepreneurs for tourist displays, and that the skeletons were of normal size. It's also possible that large prehistoric animal bones, like those of mammoths, were simply misidentified. But the reports from Nevada are far from isolated. On May 4, 1912, The New York Times ran a story about the discovery of 18 strange skeletons on a Wisconsin farm. However, state archaeologists have found no evidence to verify this discovery, and correspondence from the time makes no mention of unusually large bones. Still, hundreds of similar newspaper articles from the late 19th and early 20th centuries exist, all describing the unearthing of giant remains. Was every single one of them a lie, a mistake, or a hoax? Or were they reporting on discoveries that powerful institutions later decided the world wasn't meant to see? The megalithic connection, Gilgal-Rephaim. If a race of giants existed, they would have needed more than just strength. They would have needed intelligence and skill. And when we look at the world's megalithic structures, another layer of this story reveals itself. In the Golan Heights lies a massive stone structure known as Gilgal-Rephaim. Its modern Hebrew name translates to the Wheel of Giants, which is no accident. Local legend has long held that only giants could have built such a monument. Made of over 42,000 basalt rocks, arranged in massive concentric circles, the site is estimated to have been built as early as 3,500 BCE. At its center is a burial chamber, covered by a mound of stones over 16 feet high. This wasn't just a pile of rocks. It was likely a ritual center, and some believe its entrance aligns with the sunrise on the summer solstice. While modern archaeology has found no proof that giants actually built it, the name itself tells a story. The local population looked at this impossible structure and came to the only conclusion that made sense to them. It was the work of the ancient Rephaim, the giant race mentioned in the Bible. Could our ancestors have known who built these sites? With that knowledge surviving only as myths and place names? The grand cover-up. The Smithsonian conspiracy. This leads us to the most explosive part of this story, the allegation of a deliberate cover-up by one of the world's most respected scientific institutions. For decades, a theory has circulated claiming that the Smithsonian Institution actively suppressed evidence of giants in North America. The story is almost always the same. Someone unearths enormous skeletons, reports it to the Smithsonian, and the bones are collected, never to be seen again. This conspiracy theory hit a fever pitch in 2014 when a story went viral claiming the Supreme Court had ordered the Smithsonian to release documents proving it had destroyed thousands of giant skeletons. It originated from a satirical website, and there is absolutely no record of any such Supreme Court case. But dismissing the entire idea because of one fake article misses the bigger question. Why were so many people willing to believe it? It's because the story tapped into a deep, long-standing suspicion, fueled by a century of those old newspaper reports about giant discoveries that mysteriously vanished. It's fueled by local histories that speak of giant bones being sent to institutions. While there's no smoking gun, the sheer number of these stories has created a troubling narrative that is difficult to ignore. The idea of a cover-up persists because for many, it's the only explanation that seems to fit the scattered evidence and the deafening silence. So where does this leave us? On one hand, we have the official narrative, a collection of myths, misidentifications, and outright hoaxes. We're told the Nephilim are allegory, the Paiute legends are folklore, and old newspaper clippings are just tall tales. The red hair is a chemical reaction, and the giant skeletons were probably just mastodon bones. But on the other hand, we have these startlingly consistent stories from all over the world. We have ancient holy books, detailed Native American oral histories, and hundreds of written reports from a time before history was so carefully curated, all telling us the same thing. Giants were real. We have megalithic sites named after them, and a persistent belief that the evidence was intentionally hidden. The scientific proof for a literal race of giants simply isn't there. Verified discoveries of exceptionally tall ancient individuals, like a 6'5" man found in a Viking-era pit in England, or are we looking at the faint echoes of a chapter of our history that has been torn from the books, leaving us with a story of our origins that is incomplete, sanitized, and ultimately Forbidden? The final truth may still be out there, buried, waiting to be rediscovered. What do you believe? Are these stories just powerful myths? Or is there a genuine forbidden history waiting to be uncovered? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you want to keep exploring the mysteries hiding just beneath the surface of our accepted history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.